Maharashtra. It had identical provisions, and Gujkoka also has provisions akin to it. I don't know why Congress party is playing politics over this. And there were certain legal issues which already stand settled by the Supreme Court. And in today's age and time, the terrorists work in a very sophisticated and a very dangerous manner.
Why
and
did two presidents of India feel the need to return this bill?
Which evolve with time in order to deal with their such heinous acts of terror.
Sure, but why did President Kalam and President Pratibha Patil feel that this was a draconian law and they sent it back with very specific objections?
No, he never said it was a draconian law.
There was
Maybe
a very
on some issue he may
there was a very
have had a
specific
different
objection
opinion
that was made by both of them. I read those out.
What was the objection?
One was about telephonic intercepts being used as evidence, and the other was confessions before the police, both as evidence.
And bail.
And the fact that it's going to become much more
difficult
to get bail.
Both these points, the legality of both these provisions was examined by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has upheld the legality of both these two provisions. They do not violate the right to privacy. They do not violate Article 21. Even the confessions in cases of this nature have been upheld that they also do not violate any provision of law or CRPC. And therefore there is no cause for
Wait, I'm just going to get Sanjay Hegde to intervene on the legal point that you're making.
Something which doesn't even exist, and opining on something.
Yeah, Mr.
No, that is a legal point which has been made by the Supreme Court of India. And once Supreme Court of India has adjudicated, I don't think anybody has any right to sit over judgment of Supreme Court of India.
This is not a closed chapter, and you must also remember that the Supreme Court recently, when it struck down 66A, said that it may the very fact that you may not misuse a law does not mean that it will necessarily be upheld, because the possibility of misuse itself of a bad law is enough to strike it down. The Supreme Court please, Aman, let me have my say.
The validity has been specifically upheld.
Makoka was nevertheless may have been upheld, but Makoka was also upheld with certain riders. The same as Tada and Pota. Each time the Supreme Court has dealt with it, it has put in riders. It has not unilaterally upheld, because the Supreme Court has had a bad experience, and that was during the Congress and in the emergency.
No, the virus was challenged, Sanjay. The virus was challenged,
please let
and
me
their validity was upheld by the Supreme Court.
In 1976, during the emergency, the Supreme Court was faced with an argument by the then Attorney General, who said that if a policeman took a citizen outside the campus and shot him, that there would be no remedy during an emergency. The Supreme Court was at that point of time persuaded to think that the right to life came out of the Constitution alone, and it was a gift of the Constitution. After that, the Supreme Court has repented. And
so you think it's not a closed chapter?
It's not a closed chapter.
Okay, Jaiveer, is there a political argument that's also being made here? Because the fact is Maharashtra also has a law that many consider to be draconian, and therefore is this double standards.
Nidhi, being a lawyer myself, I'll give both political and legal answers. First things first, let's be clear. All the Supreme Court decision which is being referred here and being misinterpreted as a general license was the case of PUCL versus the Union of India. And Supreme Court laid down the foundation, in fact, saying if a law has to be passed, a draconian law, you have to look into the rationale. Number two, insufficiency of existing laws. So look at the argument. Today, the argument is rational is you have Makoka and Maharashtra, please apply the same in Gujarat. That does not pass the legal sound test of rationality of state specific. And secondly, how does Unlawful Activities Prevention Act does not address the problems of Gujarat? Number one. Number two, any weapon or law can be used both ways. Either you secure peace or you create havoc in the name of the peace. Now consider Gujarat's notorious reputation. Amnesty International report dealing with Gaikad Haveli police station, how they misused Pota. So the larger question is Gujarat government competent or can be trusted enough to deal with this law? Number three, Aman, I didn't interrupt you. Aman, I didn't interrupt you. Aman, I didn't, let me complete. Let me complete. Number three,
and please remove
the political
report.
Aman,
you are not going to abide.
Please remove the political angle
of the Supreme Court, and you are going to place reliance on the Amnesty International.
Aman, you got your time.
Supreme Court of India's adjudication will count.
One second, Mr. Sin, I'll give you a chance to respond. Let me finish the point.
Third, Nidhi, as you said,
presidents of all these provisions were challenged. Specifically, it was said Their prayer was that all these provisions violate, you know, the several fundamental rights, and therefore they are violating of the Constitution.
Is not,
the Supreme
Aman,
Court
let
of
me
India
complete, you will get your chance.
Mr. Sinha,
And
just give him a
that they are
second.
not in violation
Let's
of the
just
virus
give
of the
Jaiveer a chance to
Constitution.
finish the point that he's making.
Specifically,
I will give you a
No, he
chance
can
to
hear you.
respond. Yeah.
Nidhi, the
Yeah.
question,
No, please do not make incorrect legal
Nidhi.
propositions.
Okay,
and
let him
please
finish.
do not
Let
make
him finish.
incorrect
Let's
factual
not talk
statements and
over
put it
each
into
other
my
because
mouth.
there is no point in doing
Nidhi,
that.
the
Yes.
question is let's not confuse the question of virus, the competence, with the need for this law. They are two different aspects. Lastly, when the two presidents rejected this, it was on pure legal grounds. Clause 20 said bail for 1 year can't be. 43D of our Unlawful Activity Prevention Act says you can give bail. What is the reason today of non-adhering to the advice of the president, advice of Atal Bihari Vajpayee? Now, lastly, I heard the respected police officer saying it's a border state. Nidhi, I'm sorry. Punjab is a border state. Rajasthan is a border state. Border state alone cannot be the rationale of the law. You already have a law in place. Please point out the deficiencies in this law, how it does not address Gujarat.
Let me get Kavita then in. Kavita, I mean, you know, when you look at the various aspects of this law, do you believe there's a certain confidence with which the Gujarat government now thinks that it will perhaps, go through this time and the president will sign on?
Yeah, absolutely. The Gujarat government is now confident that the chief architect of this law, Mr. Narendra Modi himself, is now the Prime Minister, and we know that it's a very centralized system of governance. The hope is that when sent by the Home Ministry, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee will not sign it, hopefully. I mean, we will appeal to him till the end. But I want to bring in some points also here. I firstly think this law really cannot be implemented. It's a complete recipe of abuse. It gives so much powers to the police. It challenges the very principle of Indian jurisprudence of presumption of innocence. You know, how can we have such a law which shifts the burden? How can we? Number two, bail. So they're going to take away, this law is going to take away the right of the judiciary also. And it's going to be so overbearing with so much of overreach. And look at the unfair procedure. I mean, how can you have this confession business? It's absolutely unfair procedure. Will the police, who wants to make out a case, who is now going to hand over a case and is part of the prosecution, not just torture and make any statement? I mean, this is not permissible even under international law. And I think we have a system of checks and balances, which is really, really good. Makoka may have some of these draconian things. It doesn't mean that we keep repeating it. I don't think if there is a law which has something which is illegal, we need to repeat. We know as activists the number of people in the name of terrorism who are just in jail and never get the chance to see the light of day. The trial takes years, 15 years, 16 years. Can we allow a law which further strengthens this kind of just putting away behind bars without any hearing? No, I don't think any human rights group is going to allow this law. We are going to fight it tooth and nail. This is absolute abuse of, our Indian Constitution.
And you are worried about human rights of terrorists and, hardened criminals. Why are you not worried about human rights of innocent Indian citizens who have been victims and prime targets of, such acts of terror?
One second. Aman Sinha, nobody is...
If you are aggrieved, go ahead and challenge it.
Yeah.
Human rights are not because of victims or terrorists.
That is what she's preaching
Human
about.
rights are because
she's only
we are
preaching
human.
and, making a passionate appeal about rights of, some
human
terrorists
rights are
and
not
some
about
hardened
terrorists
criminals.
and victims.
This is
Human
a special
rights are about the
statute
humanity
which is
of our
envisaged and devised
and
to
the
deal
system.
with the sophisticated and dangerous way in which terrorists operate.
Can I come
And
in?
what are you preaching about?
I think you just need a license to snoop.
Were considered by the
Imagine you're
Supreme Court.
snooping already in absence of this Draconian bill. What havoc will be created if you actually get a law which empowers you to snoop with the sanction of the law?
All these provisions of law stand the judicial scrutiny and therefore there shouldn't be anybody sitting over judgment of the Supreme Court and taking a different view altogether.
Well, that is here.
Supreme Court did not give a general
The matter hasn't gone there, exactly.
Amnesty International
Supreme Court never gave a general license.
other international bodies
I have a judgment
which have
with me
no
right now here.
consequence, and they don't abide by, they don't even abide by the judgment of
Okay,
the
Mr. Sinha, you have to let everyone else speak as well. One second, Kavita wanted to complete her point.
It is absolutely unfortunate.
One second, let Kavita complete her point. I'll come back to everybody. Yes, Kavita.
No, she has made a...
She just wants to complete her point. I think we can give her the respect of doing, we can listen to each other respectfully. Thank you. Yes.
We never interrupted you.
I have heard her for
Go
5
ahead,
minutes.
Kavita. Yeah.
Please.
I have only spoken after you have finished. Please do not give me a lecture.
The Gujarat police has a history of abusing and profiling only a certain section of society. As recently as 1st of January, the exercise undertaken as part of a terrorist drill has terrorist skull caps. Now, can you imagine who are the people whom they're going to put behind bars? Already Mr. Prakash Singh has openly stated it. I mean, it is shocking how some people want to make India into a security state. Please give up this bogey of national security. Let people live in peace. Don't start profiling a certain section. Your police...
So what is the bogey that you are raising? No, if you are prejudiced against Gujarat police, I cannot do anything about your prejudices. If you are aggrieved by this, go ahead and challenge it.
So many senior Gujarat officers are facing fake encounter cases. There are trials that are underway, which is a separate point. The question is, Mr. Prakash Singh, whether one second, guys. I'm going to bring the mic down so that I can ask Mr. Prakash Singh this question. Mr. Singh, the point is not about whether it is the Gujarat police or the UP police or the West Bengal police. The point is whether any police force should have this much power with it. I mean, there need to be a check and balance. One of the, you said that these wiretaps, for instance, should be admissible. They are the most useful. Many would find that extremely problematic, sir. Should any police force, let's leave politics out of it, have so much power?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Nidhi, I would like to apprise you, and through you, the people of the country, that there are extraordinary safeguards in the Gujarat bill. Point number one, the provisions of the Gujarat Act cannot be applied without the approval and sanction of the Commissioner of Police or the DIG/IG range. No SHO can do that. No junior officer can do that. It has to be the fact that this bill, the provisions of this bill are going to be applied will require prior sanction of the Commissioner of Police or DIG/IG range. Number two, the case will be investigated by an officer of the rank of Deputy Superintendent of Police only. Earlier it was that the SHO could investigate. No, now the level of investigation has been raised. Thirdly, and this is a very important provision, after the case has been finalized,
let him finish. Yes, Mr. Singh.
No, kindly allow me to complete. Kindly allow me to complete. The third point, and this is very important, after the case has been investigated and the charge sheet has been filed, the sanction for prosecution will be given by the state government. And the state government doesn't give sanction for prosecution, the case will just fall through. So, all this talk about misuse, actually if the misuse is going to happen, it will happen at the level of the state government. Now you are not going to trust the state police, you are not going to trust the state government. Whom are you going to trust? I think you are going to trust the terrorists. And people like Kavita,
sir,
they are talking of peace.
What about those officers on trial for
They want peace of the graveyard. They want peace of the graveyard.
I mean, there are officers facing serious criminal charges right now, sir. Those are not state government officials. This is directly very senior police officers that are on trial currently. Those cases are underway.
And it's not only Gujarat.
It's not only Gujarat. It's all over the country. It's not about Gujarat.
The question is, sorry, I'm interrupting you. The question is, we're beating around the mulberry bush by saying India is facing terrorist situations. Nobody is answering the question from BJP or the police officers. How do the present laws not deal with this situation? That is the moot question. What is the Inadequacy in Unlawful Activity Prevention Act? Now, if you're talking about the telephone tapping, there is an entire section dedicated to that in the present law. It talks about a higher competent authority to keep a check on police. The present bill And sir, let me factually correct you. Section 16 talks only about superintendent of police or commissioner of police. There is no mention of competent authority over the police dealing with this sanction of this phone tapping.
Let me ask Sanjay Hegde, what is the biggest problem with this phone intercepts? Because Mr. Prakash Singh has cited that as a key, what he thinks would be a key component in terms of national security matters.
Listen,
Just one
intercepts for securing them as information, very good, go ahead. But that is not evidence. You may take information from there, but you have to build your case on evidence which is separately proven in a court of law. So I'll tell you what the problem is. Just before this program, you had the Giriraj Kishore thing. That also was a breach of his privacy in certain aspects. Anything that a person says over an electronic device does not automatically translate into evidence. You may use it for securing information. What are people thinking? What are people talking about? But then, what are they doing? You need evidence in accordance with law. What this bill does is to take shortcuts right through every procedure, saying this is inconvenient. We cannot file our charge sheets within 90 days.
Mr. Mehta, sir, what do you think is the problem then with the laws as they exist today? You really think that the police are unable to fight terrorists and organized crime with the current laws?
Could I respond to that?
Mr. Mehta.
The credibility of police is always questioned. Even the credibility of police is always questioned when it comes to the implementation of even ordinary laws of the country. But as I said, that national security level, if that is to be kept in mind, that we are exposed to terrorist groups not only from the neighboring country but from beyond that, from the Middle East and the Muslim countries. It is necessary that the act passed by the Gujarat Assembly should be passed. And police have problems, whether it is Gujarat or anywhere else, that political